Welcome to Tech Talk with Suits. I am a technician. I have been in the tech world for years. I love technology. I love learning about it. I love teaching about it. And it's a wonderful thing, and sometimes it's hilarious as well. So, today I decided to do awkward stories of tech support. Now, every profession has awkward moments. They've always got somebody who does something really weird, and you're sitting there going, cringeworthy. Here's some of the top ones that I remember that made me just either cringe or laugh later on. So, number one, the lady who admitted. So, I was working tech support, and at the time I was just taking in computers. We would run an antivirus scan on them, make sure everything was running all right. So basically, we would take in the computer, find out what was making it run slow or what was making it run badly, do a scan on it, take care of whatever viruses, take any malware off. We would also try to clean the things up. If it had a virus that was taking over the whole computer, we would deal with that as well. It was basic tech support. No, it was not Best Buy. No. But we would take in those computers and we would fix them up. We would do what we'd need with them. We would repair physical stuff, we would repair software, whatever we needed to do to get to the computer to work as the client wanted us to get it to work. Now, this lady walks in, and she's probably, I want to say 60s. Not a bad looking lady, but you can definitely tell she's in her 60s, and I'm just wanting to get my job done with. So she walks up with her computer and puts her entire desktop computer on the desk. And she goes, "Hi, I just need my computer fixed." And I said, "Okay." And I have a piece of paper. It asks for their name, their phone number, contact information. That way we can tell them when it's ready and what the problem is. So I said, "Okay, what's the issue with it?" She goes, "Well, it's been running really slow the last couple of days, and I'm pretty sure I have viruses and malware on it." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm just writing on the paper as general as possible. Viruses, malware, running slowly. Now, it is kind of almost like an inside joke in the tech world that if you come in and you say, "Hey, my computer's running slow and it has viruses on it," the technician's gonna go, "I know what you were looking up on your computer." Because viruses don't usually come through unless it's a corporate email or something. Most of the time it means that you've been to some untrustworthy sites, and I'll just leave it at that. So in my head, I'm already going, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on with this. Well, I'm halfway through just writing 2 or 3 words, and I was about to tell her, "Okay, we'll go ahead and take care of it. It'll all be good." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure the viruses came because..." And I'm like, "Oh no, please stop, please stop." And I couldn't say anything because that would be rude. But she goes, "Yeah, my boyfriend and I were looking up some adult sites last night, and I think we downloaded some stuff we shouldn't have." And I'm like, "Oh, please stop, please stop, please stop. I don't want to think about a 60-year-old lady looking up adult material with her boyfriend." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm trying to just finish writing out, and I'm about to say, "Okay, that's fine. We'll go ahead and take it back." And she said, "Yeah, we thought we'd try some stuff, and we wanted to see what it looked like." And I'm like, And then she decides to put the lovely topping on. "I think you know my boyfriend." And I'm like, "Oh, please don't say it." And she goes, "So his name is blah blah, and I think he comes in here often." And yes, it is a guy I had met. He came in about once a week, and I did not want to know this information about him. I was like, that was the end. And I was just like, I looked up and went, "Okay, yeah, it happens. Thanks very much for the computer. We'll go ahead and give you a call when it's ready." And she's like, "Oh, good to know." And I was like, "Oh, did not need to know any of that." So I haul the computer back, and one of the technicians back there goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I explained to my 60-year-old lady just let me know that she was basically looking up adult sites on her computer with her boyfriend. And he goes, "That's awkward." And I said, "And then she named her boyfriend, who we know." And he goes, "I don't want to know anymore." I'm like, "I didn't either." Ugh. All right. Next story. So, when you are a tech support, family asks you all the time to help with their computers, which is not a problem. Honestly, Google solves a lot of things. Every tech is only as good as their best Google search. But the problem was this laptop was running really slowly. Like, it was running really slowly. Okay, I can't do that anymore. It bugs me. Really, really slow. And I'm like, why? So I go to boot it up, and at least 30 programs all start up at the same time. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, now granted, this was not 15 years ago. Actually getting close to 15 years ago. So computers were not as robust as they are now, but there were tons of startup programs. And I'm like, what in the world? So I'm going through and looking at all the startup processes, the things that start up when your laptop or your computer start up. And I'm noticing there's at least 6 different virus protection programs. And most of them are kind of shady-ish. They're not great. They look like they were pop-up ads. Like, okay, I'm just going to delete all of these and then install the one that we normally give customers for free because it was good at the time. I delete all those. I find a bunch of other programs that are running. I take off a bunch of malware, stuff like that. Not viruses, but malware. And malware usually comes from clicking on ads and things like that, where it's, hey, win this, or do this, and hey, download this. And so I got the laptop running just fine. I called up and said, hey, out of curiosity, do you know why you have like 10 antivirus programs running on your computer? And they said, oh, well, yeah, every time it would pop up and say, hey, you've got a virus, you should go ahead and run this program to take it off. I just go ahead and click OK. And I went, now, if you are not a tech support person, you might think that's just fine. And I'm not begrudging this family member. You know who you are. But it was one of those where in my head, I'm like, oh, as a technician, I'm like, don't just download things that just pop up. Don't. The icon. Working in tech support, I got a phone call one day. And this lady it was actually tech support for retail stores. And this lady called up and she said, hey, my computer, the register is frozen. Now, most registers are just the computer that looks all fancy. And after looking at the things, I said, so your computer's fully frozen. She goes, uh-huh. I said, okay, well, let's just reboot it. And she goes, well, can you reboot it for me? We had the software that I could normally get in. I said, no, your computer's not letting me in. It's frozen up too much. Let's just go ahead and hold down the start button or the power button. And she goes, okay. So yeah, we're just gonna hold down like 10 seconds and it should shut itself off. She goes, okay. So we're waiting. And we're waiting. 15 seconds goes by. I'm like, so is the computer shutting off? She goes, no. So you're holding down the start or the power button, right? Uh-huh. All right, so let it go and try holding it down for another 10 seconds. And right now I'm like, there's something wrong because even a frozen computer should not take that long to reboot it. We're waiting. And we're waiting. And I said, hey, is it done yet? And she, no, it's still on. I said, okay. And the power light is still on. And it sounded terrible, but I want to make sure she was in the right computer. And I said, so you've traced the wire down from the monitor that's frozen and it's leading to this computer. Uh-huh. And you're holding down the power button, correct? Uh-huh. Said it's the one that's lit up green. Well, it's lit up. Wait. What do you mean it's lit up? It's not lit up with a green light? No, it's just lit up. What color is the light on it? It's silver. There are no silver power buttons. There's white ones now, and there's green ones. And I said, silver. So this is going to, I said, it's going to be a small button just to make sure we're on the same page. Because I said, sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page as you. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding. It's going to be a little button that almost looks like a full circle with a little line in it. I said, it's going to be small. And she goes, no, that's not it. And immediately I'm like, oh crap, what is she holding down? And I said, what does it look like that you're holding down? And she goes, oh, it says Dell. And I paused for a moment in my brain. I'm like, oh, silver, lit up, Dell. She was holding down the Dell icon, thinking it was a giant button. Sounded like the sun happened to be shining. It was lighting it up. And I said, ma'am, so that's just the icon for Dell. That's their logo that they put on there. It has no function. other than looking pretty. No, it's the power button. So I understand that you think it's the power button, but that's not it. It's going to be, yes it is, that's the power button. I hate when people argue with tech support. Don't call us if you don't want tech support. I said, okay, I'm sure you're right. Do you happen to see a button that's lit up with a green light that looks like what I described earlier with a partial circle and a line? Yeah, I see that. And I said, just to humor me, because I want to double check. Just humor me, go ahead and hold that one down for 10 seconds. Okay, fine, but it's not going to do anything. That's fine, I just want to check. 10 seconds goes by. Oh, look, the computer turned off. Said, yep, go ahead and hit it back and you should be good to go in like a few minutes when it boots up. She goes, oh, okay, thanks, have a nice day. Make sure you know where your power button is. All right. Remote support. So there are lots of different softwares out there that can provide remote support, meaning when you are in your computer, tech support or somebody else can get into your computer. Generally, if it's a retail store, there's already going to be the software on it that they can get into it or that we can get into it. Or sometimes you'll have to go to a third-party site and open up their software, and then the tech support site goes ahead and opens up the same thing. Codes are exchanged and they get access. And it can go either way. We used to use, I think there's TeamViewer. There's also like remote support, stuff like that. But TeamViewer is a very, very common one now. There's many others. But on this particular day, troubleshooting this guy's system, because he was calling in for some support, obviously. And we were trying some things and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have to wait for that to set up. Let me go ahead and do some research. So I place him on hold. I'm looking and doing some research. I look back to my screen, which is his screen. And I notice that we are on a site that is of an adult nature, and I'll just leave it at that. It's a very popular adult nature site, apparently. And I'm like, oh, this is awkward. So I decide, I'm still gonna just do my research. So I find out what I need, and I look back over, and I realize they are then inputting their credit card number into said site. I guess to renew a subscription, don't know. But I thought, okay, I wanna make sure that they know that I'm still in their computer. So I wiggle my mouse a little bit. I take them off hold. I'm like, all right, so I'm back. And they're like, okay. And that's when they scroll. They knew I was on their computer. They're like, yep, hold on, I'm just finishing up my transaction. I was like, oh, so you already knew I was on your computer. This is really awkward. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this up. Give me just a second. And then they start scrolling up. Now, unfortunately, I guess if you have subscriptions to certain things, it also keeps track of your history, which makes total sense of it's going to then recommend things to you. As the guys scrolled up, it then was showing recommendations and history, and I got to know what this person was into way more than I wanted to. But yeah, and so then they clicked out of the site. They didn't seem to care at all. By the way, this was a work computer that they were on. I don't know what kind of work standards you have, but I don't recommend doing that at work. Finished fixing the issues, got out. I was like, oh, that was just really weird. And the guy did not care. I had a person call me. They were a little bit strange, but they called me to complain about their service, their phone service, and their internet service, which I had nothing to do with the internet service. And I said, okay, so what exactly is going on? They then went on a rant for about 10 minutes about how they had internet leakage. Yes, you heard that, internet leakage, which is not a thing. But according to her, her internet had been leaking out. And when I asked exactly what do you mean, she goes, well, I'm losing internet. I said, I don't know what you mean by losing internet. And she said, well, it's leaking out. And I'm trying to imagine in my brain the internet cable with like a leaking silver liquid coming out of it. I just had no idea what she was talking about. And I said, ma'am, I don't know that that's even a thing, which it's not, but I was trying to be nice about it. And she goes, no. I think it was Comcast. She goes, I had the Comcast CEO out here just the other day looking at it and to research it and to find out what was happening with my internet and why there was internet leakage. I'm like, oh, you had the CEO of Comcast out to your house to investigate internet leakage. Okay. And it was at this point that I'm like, somebody missed their meds. All right. And then she went on about how Comcast was now trying to steal from her, and it was about the government also going with it. And I'm like, okay. Well, I think it ended up, I had to get a manager involved because she was just great. But it was very, very awkward because I had no idea how else to answer that. All right. One of the lovely parts, a guy called up one day and said, hey, I need some help with this. And I'm like, okay. So I gave him some advice on what to do about it. And I said, you're going to need to do this and this. It's probably going to take you some time. It's probably going to take you a day or at least hours. Let us know when you're done. Well, he called back 15 minutes later, and I got him. And he goes, I said, hi, how can I help you? And he goes, yeah, this is my name, and this is what I'm with. And I thought, oh, it's the same guy. And before I had a chance to say anything, he goes, yeah, if you can make sure I don't get in touch with that same person I talked to last time. He was a few choice inappropriate words. And I said, okay, sorry. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe he talked to somebody after me, and then he called me and got me again. And he goes, well, this person told me to do this and this and this. And he goes, and I just talked to them like 15 minutes ago. I'm like, that was me. And he goes, well, they told me to do this and this, and I tried that and it didn't work. And in my head, I'm like, no, I didn't tell you to try that. That's not even anything we talked about. I was like, oh, joy, this customer's trying to lie to me about what I said to try to get me in trouble. And so, I think they should, get in trouble for, telling me lies. But, I tried this and it didn't work at all. But he suggested it. I'm like, no, I didn't actually. You're full of crap. And I said, okay, that's not a thing that we would ever even suggest because it wouldn't have anything to do with this. And he goes, well, he told me to. And I said, all right, I understand that you feel that way. Let's go ahead and try this. So I then had to try and go around about it. But I was trying to make sure at this point that I didn't say anything similar to last time where he would go, oh, hey, wait, that's you. Because you don't ever want a customer who's mad calling and yelling at you again. So it's just like, oh, I got to pretend not to be me for a few minutes, but I know that you're lying to me because it was me that you talked to. If you have any awkward moments from your job or with tech support, there's a lot of awkward phone calls out there. There's a lot of awkward tech support moments. If you've got yours, go ahead and write it down below and I will comment on it. If there's anything that you think that I was wrong with, let me know. If there's something that you'd like to hear about next time, please let me know. I don't want to make this video too much longer, but stay tuned for the next episodes. We've got plenty of fun coming up. And this is Suits signing off. Have a great one.